Morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's edition of the MPC Markets Morning Call, 9th of Feb, 2026, Monday. I'm Mark Gardner. Tech rebounded, well, the broader market rebounded on Friday night. But a very, very weird move. The news didn't really match the move overall. So I think we sort of broaden out and have a look at it from a weekly perspective. And the Nasdaq still had its worst week since April last year with the Liberation Day. Look, a lot of these gains were driven by NVIDIA, Broadcom, AMD, etc. We didn't really have, Amazon continued to really fall. Google was down as well. We've reported earnings. But it was the broader market that still continued to head higher. We're still getting a fair bit of attention in those consumer defensives and some of those industrials, etc. as well. So, but yeah, it was a bit of a strange one, I've got to say, in terms of the Challenger layoffs. We've got a chart of it here back to 2020. Obviously, this is the COVID period. This is the worst period we've seen. But Challenger layoffs was one of the worst in quite a long time. So basically, we're starting to see this. That was obviously a bit of a one-off outside of COVID, but prior to that, essentially, this is the worst. We're starting to get the worst cumulative layoffs on a 12-month basis since around about 2009, really. And extended forecasts were much weaker than expected as well. It did increase expectations of a rate cut, although that's always the jury's always out on that realistically, because we just need one high inflation number, etc. We didn't have payrolls on Friday night. That's been delayed, despite the fact that the shutdown was only partial. I don't think it included the BLS, and it was only a couple of days. But that's never. I wouldn't imagine that's never great news if they're trying to delay that, because there's no reason to delay it otherwise, unless it's a bad number. Obviously we were pretty weak and pretty negative leading into Friday, which is why our market was off. We'll get a really solid bounce back today. I think the SPY's up 1.2%. Not a massive recovery. I mean, you can see here with the Nasdaq, still down 2%, nearly 2% for the week, despite that 2% bounce back on Friday. We've still got daily technicals that is a strong sell, and that's the first time I've seen the weeklies on a neutral as well. The rest of the market's still doing okay. Nikkei is still doing its own thing, but look, overall, I would not necessarily call this a lay down sort of bull market at this point. So I think these could easily switch here in the Dow, the S&P, and potentially the Russell, but I would say that the S&P would be the next to go, given its high allocation to those Nasdaq stocks. Our market here, we're going to have earnings this week, and we've got the likes of CSL, James Hardie, Car Group today, and Seek.com, and we'll have a bit of a calendar of that later on today. But there should be earnings season really does kick off here for Australia this week. So it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is. We are taking the general view that we'd rather react afterwards, not before, just given that's extreme volatility that we saw, and just the vortex of prices in the event there's a disappointment. It really, it's the risk reward is not skewed to the upside in the Australian market anymore. To be writing things leading into earnings. So in a bit more of a risk on, mentality, Bitcoin bounced back about 13, silver 15, platinum 10, gold bounced back as well. There were rumours floating around that there was 5 or 6 Chinese firms that got caught colluding on and in excess of limits, colluding on smashing the silver prices down on, I believe it was Thursday's day session. and they're being investigated currently, which sort of makes sense. In a way, because it was a very odd move, and it did seem a little bit orchestrated, and it appears as though, I said 5 or 6 of these trading firms are very much going to, I guess, get the wrath of the Chinese government, but yeah, we will see how. I mean, I wouldn't imagine there'll be too much news outside of that, but it sort of does make sense given that just absolute extreme volatility in that market there at the moment. But it's sort of settled back to about normal, realistically, and I think you can probably take off the. There's sort of the bottom half of the range and the top half of the range in the last couple of weeks in silver, because it was very leverage and margin call driven on both sides, and I think where we end up settling over the course of the next week for gold, silver, and platinum, and probably copper as well, will largely be where we end up. Probably in the short to medium term. So it did look like there was an extreme amount of volume go through in Bitcoin. So there's, we're sort of monitoring to see if maybe this is some sort of medium term low. But you never know with these, with these crypto, with crypto generally. Uranium and obviously lithium had a bit of a bounce back as well. Yeah, with a few names this week, but nothing enormous. I'll get onto the Aussie calendar for tomorrow's morning call. But you got the likes of Coca-Cola, Cisco, McDonald's, John Deere, fairly decent bellwethers of the economy generally. CoreWeave might be interesting. Apple Oven also might be interesting after being absolutely belted in Palo Alto on Thursday, just to see how that cybersecurity sector is going overall. But if you don't have Mosaic, you can sign up, get your first month free. 4 stock recommendation services, buy and hold for US and global and ASX. Alpha recommendations, which are a little bit more shorter term. ASX and global as well. ETF portfolio, very good win rate. All of our content, all of our general updates, podcasts, etc., all in one place. And if you're a client, all of your portfolio, etc., in there as well. It's available on desktop, Apple Store, Google Play. It's only $149 a month, which is cost of a coffee a day. So well worth catching up, getting those, catching up on markets, getting what you need to know when you need to know it, and making sure that you sort of weather these volatility storms that we've been having over the last couple of weeks. But that generally sort of wraps it up for this morning. We will expect to see a bit of a bounce back, and as I said, in the Aussie market today. And we'll chat again tomorrow. General advice warning. The content presented in this presentation is intended for informational purposes only and provides general advice only. It does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or specific needs. This information should not be the sole resource when making investment decisions. We strongly recommend you seek the advice of a financial professional.